Good afternoon, teachers. My name is Aaron from class PEO2, and today I'll be presenting on my case study for my module on IoT security. Here's what I'll be covering today. I'll be doing a quick overview of the 4 critical IoT protocols that I have selected, which are Bluetooth, MQTT, CoAP, and Wi-Fi. Afterwards, I'll be talking about their real-world applications on these 4 protocols, and then I'll be diving into the attack analysis on one of the protocols that I have selected. Afterwards, I'll be talking about the modeling of an attack using hybrid techniques to understand IoT vulnerabilities. And finally, talking about the practical mitigation strategies to prevent these types of attacks. So the 4 IoT protocols that I have mentioned are Bluetooth, CoAP, MQTT, and Wi-Fi. So starting off, I'll be talking about Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is a wireless communication protocol designed for short-range data transfer between devices. It operates within a 2.4 GHz ISM, also known as Industrial, Scientific, and Medical band, using frequency hopping to minimize interference. So the way Bluetooth works is that it will broadcast its signals, which are used to identify and establish a trusted connection using pairing methods or a passkey among devices. So some real-world applications of Bluetooth would be our wireless earbuds like our AirPods that I'm using right now, not only that at home like the wireless keyboards that we use, or even in the healthcare industry like our glucose trackers that doctors use for their patients to track glucose levels, as well as at home like our smart fans or our smart aircons, which can be connected using our phones through Bluetooth to control it. Next up is MQTT, also known as message queuing telemetry. So what is MQTT? MQTT is a lightweight messaging protocol designed for IoT systems. This is because these devices tend to have limited resources or intermittent connectivity. So not only that, it is also so how does it work? So MQTT's key components are the fact that there is a broker that will act as a central server that distributes messages, followed by a publisher that sends the messages to specific topics from the broker. And lastly will be the subscribers, which are the devices or applications that subscribes to these topics and will receive updates on it. So some real applications of this will be our home automation things like our thermostats at home, which are able to record temperature and which we can retrieve from our phones and devices to see what's the temperature at home. Not only that, in our IoT industrial machines, we're monitoring machines with sensors that send data to dashboards for either engineers or scientists to further understand what they're doing. Not only that, in the healthcare industry, there is also the use of MQTT through real-time patient monitoring sensors that will transmit data to doctors to further understand and research. Next up is CoAP. So what is CoAP? CoAP is a constrained application protocol. It is also a lightweight web transfer designed for constrained devices in IoT systems. So CoAP is actually very similar to HTTP, but uses UDP for faster and more efficient communication among devices. So the way CoAP works is that devices send compact messages to request or subscribe to updates from servers. This will avoid the constant polling and reduce data overhead. CoAP is mainly used in industrial areas, for example, like our smart energy grids that monitor power distribution, and not only that, our smart agriculture farms. Lastly, the fourth IoT protocol that I have selected is Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is a wireless networking technology that allows devices to connect to the internet or other devices within the LAN area. Wi-Fi primarily operates on a 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz frequency band. So the way Wi-Fi works is that routers will broadcast signals and devices will authenticate using protocols like WPA2 or WPA3 to secure the connection to the routers. Applications of Wi-Fi can be found everywhere, from our home Wi-Fis to public Wi-Fis, office Wi-Fi, and even McDonald's Wi-Fi. So now I'll be talking about my attack analysis on one of the protocols that I selected, and that will be Wi-Fi. And today I'll be covering on the TJX data breach which happened in 2005. So what happened to this company? So in 2005, TJX Companies, which was a parent company of several retail brands, suffered a major data breach due to the insecure Wi-Fi networks that they had. Hackers, and through this, hackers were able to infiltrate their database and stole over 45 million customer credit card information. So after this data breach happened in 2005, the company suffered a major financial loss. This is due to the fact that TJX had to pay over 250 million US dollars in settlements, fines, as well as legal fees. Not only that, they had lost their reputation and trust from the customers because their customers had lost all their credit card information and it had been stolen by the hackers. Not only that, shoppers also became very wary of using their cards at TJX stores because they did not want their data to get stolen by outsiders. So why did this happen in the first place? There are three root causes that I have researched on, and three of it are outdated encryption, network design flaws, as well as the lack of payment data encryption. So for outdated encryption, this will be because TJX was still using WEP, or otherwise known as wired equivalent privacy, which are known to have vulnerabilities since 2001. Not only that, their systems and their private database network was connected to the same one in their retail Wi-Fi, meaning that their main business was using the same Wi-Fi as those that they had in their retail shops, therefore giving the hackers even easier access to their database. Not only that, when payment was made by customers to TJX, their credit card information wasn't encrypted during transactions, therefore making it an even easier job for the hackers to steal the data. So how could all this have been avoided? Firstly, TJX should have upgraded their encryption, separated their networks from their private databases and their retail stores, and lastly, use end-to-end encryption. What do I mean by this? So they should have switched to using either WPA2 or WPA3, as this would have made the hacking much harder for the infiltrators. Not only that, they should have kept sensitive systems separate from retail Wi-Fi, as this would have limited access points for the hackers. And lastly, encrypting payments made by customers at every stage would have protected the customer's information from being hijacked by outsiders. With this breach highlights the high stakes of ignoring basic security principles that TJX should have followed in the first place. Now, I have modeled an attack using the hybrid threat model by combining the stride and attack tree to further analyze on Wi-Fi. So over here, as you can see, this is the stride and attack tree hybrid threat model that I have done. So stride stands for 6 categories of threats: spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. An attack tree complements the stride by breaking down potential threats into step-by-step scenarios, starting with the initial exploit and branching into possible outcomes. An attack path will be easier for you to understand this. Therefore, I have crafted it in the next slide and will talk more about stride and the attack that I have chosen later on. So this is the attack path that I have crafted. So I will now be explaining on this. So an attacker will establish a malicious Wi-Fi access point with the same SSID as a legitimate network. IoT devices will then be drawn to the stronger signal and inadvertently connect to this rogue AP instead. The attacker will then intercept all traffic, capturing sensitive data and potentially compromising credentials through a fake captive portal. The hackers will then exploit the over-the-air update process, where the attacker intercepts firmware updates and injects malicious code. This will allow them to gain complete control over the IoT devices and by leveraging vulnerabilities like buffer overflows, the attacker will elevate privileges to administrative levels, enabling persistent access and potentially disabling logging to evade detection from the securities. So for my strike explanation, I have decided to continue on the TJX database so that it's easier to understand. So for spoofing, the attackers will be able to impersonate the point of access or the IoT device and initiate an unauthorized connection by exploiting the weak WEP encryption to the Wi-Fi network. For tampering, attackers took the opportunity to tamper the network configurations to gain and maintain their access to the TJX database. Repudiation. The actions performed by the hackers were unable to be traced and denied by the TJX companies, which allowed the hackers to cover their tracks and could not be tracked down until later. And for information disclosure, the attackers were able to access unencrypted customer data like their credit card information by taking advantage of the compromised network, as well as of the payment issue where the data was not encrypted the moment the payment had gone through. For denial of service, there was no evidence of DOS, but this caused a major disruption in the network segment and all systems under TJX. For elevation of privilege, attackers were able to access even more sensitive information by exploiting the easy access points that TJX had to the internal network, and therefore they were able to breach the whole database. So the three scenarios that I've come up with regarding the modeling of an attack for Wi-Fi are evil twin attack, botnet command injection, and certificate forgery. So for evil twin attack, a rogue AP impersonates the legitimate SSID. Following that, the IoT device will unknowingly connect to the rogue AP, and that's when the attacker will be able to capture sensitive information or inject malicious packets into the device. Second, botnet command injection. So the compromising IoT devices will execute large-scale DDoS attacks. The attacker will infect the IoT device with malware first, and then the device will then join a botnet controlled by the attacker that will then be used to launch DDoS attacks. Lastly, for certificate forgery, attackers will use fake certificates to impersonate servers and trick device into connecting and exposing their data. This will make their data intercepted or malicious commands will be sent. So now I'll be talking about the mitigations for the three scenarios that I have mentioned. So for evil twin attack, the usage of WPA3 encryption for stronger security. Not only that, devices should also deploy rogue access point detection tools to identify and block out fake networks. For botnet command injection, implement behavior-based anomaly detectors to identify unusual device activity. Not only that, keep IoT devices updated with the latest firmware and use anti-malware solutions. Lastly, for certificate forgery, it is to enforce a stricter certificate validation and use validation mechanisms like CRLs, also known as Certificate Revocation Lists, or OCSP, also known as Online Certificate Status Protocol. So, in conclusion, IoT protocols like Bluetooth, MQTT, CoAP, and Wi-Fi enable remarkable innovations but come with security challenges. This can be seen from the TJX data breach, which serves as a caution to everyone, showing you how that neglecting cybersecurity can lead to devastating consequences. By understanding threat models like Stripe and adopting strong mitigation strategies, TJX will have been able to avoid all of these issues. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.